In the age of AI, there are going to be a lot of jobs that are going to change and others are going to go away. And it's going to be good, and I encourage you to think about it that way. In today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about the AI age, startups, and your mind as the measuring stick, and specifically related to understanding what is true in a world where there's just an increasing amount of noise and you're not sure what is signal and what is not, both in terms of just making professional judgments, in terms of growing your startup enterprise. Again, we're in the age of AI. Just the other week, another big update was released, GPT 4.0. I mean, there's debate and discussion about how big of a deal it actually is. I think that it's a reasonable, significant advancement, but it remains to be seen how significant. So in recent videos where I've done some AI news analysis, I'm going to do a little bit of that again in this video today, towards the end of the video, where I'm going to show you another video where someone is talking about losing their job to AI and sort of applying what I'm talking to you about here in terms of what is true, what is truth, how do you navigate, how do you make excellent professional judgments in this revolutionary situation, this revolutionary moment in history. Background on me, if you don't already know, my name is Matt. I am the founder of the company Grobo. The company started 14 years ago this month as a web design agency. We evolved to be a web marketing agency, then productized, and today we are coming out with our own AI automation and AI agents platform to help businesses and startups to automate their growth and automate repetitive tasks. So AI is something that I work with on a daily basis. It's something I've thought about and studied since I was young. I'm also a web developer. Our company has done well. We employ dozens of people. We crossed the seven-figure mark as a business for the first time in 2021. And for myself as an AI engineer, I have built AI neural networks from scratch, and I literally mean from scratch in JavaScript, for example, studying neuroevolution, reinforcement learning, and backpropagation. All right, so that's a little bit of my resume and why perhaps you want to listen to and take some of the words I'm saying as credible. Yesterday, I recorded a video on the bottlenecking strategy as it relates to business, to growing your business, particularly related to startups. We looked at some entrepreneurs like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, and we said, okay, do they really have, the Midas touch? Do they have, some special genius ability that is just unlearnable by us plebs or plebes, whichever is correct. And what I think you'll learn from that video when you watch it is that this, what is more of a tactical secret, if you will, used by some of these super high growth companies in the history of the world, is that it's actually very simple, and it's called the bottlenecking strategy. And in short, watch the full video to get the most value, but in short, it's about finding the biggest bottleneck. In order to know what you should work on, you just find based on your own best judgment. So it's a little bit of art and a little bit of science. So the science part comes in terms of actually, basing your decision on what to focus on numbers. All right. And then once you find that bottleneck, you use your own jaws of life, metaphorically speaking, to open it up, and you get more throughput, and you're going to grow a lot faster. This is what Elon did at Tesla. At Twitter, now rebranded as X. It's what Zuckerberg and his team did when Facebook was growing exponentially fast, and it's what many, if not all, great entrepreneurs of high growth companies are doing in order to maintain their speed and their growth rate. Now, while making that video, I was reminded of another talk, or of a talk that I heard from Paul Graham recently. Paul Graham, if you're not familiar, he went to my alma mater, just coincidentally, and he is the founder of Y Combinator, also recovering entrepreneur, if you call it that. But he had his own startup, and then he started his own incubator called Y Combinator, the most famous startup incubator in the world, with some of the biggest successes under their belt. And one thing that he said in the talk was, he said, if you start a startup and it's going to go somewhere, it's going to take over your life in a big way. It's going to take over your life in a big way because it's almost like the ideal perfect scenario. And I talked about this briefly in the bottlenecking video. And I think that's a really profound video. I think it's probably going to be underestimated to a great extent. But anyway, watch it if you like. Because again, you could be an established business and you don't, a startup is just kind of a label. I consider my company a startup in part because, we became an established business, but now we're reinventing ourselves. So we're back in startup mode, and I consider us a startup for that reason, coming out with this new platform called Grobo. Um, and the ideal situation, as Paul Graham put it, is where, and as I put it, is where the market is just pulling the product out of you. This is part of what happened, to the founders of YouTube when YouTube was skyrocketing in terms of growth around, I think it was 2000, 2007, 2008, 2009. They were acquired, I think, for $2 billion by Google in 2006 or 7. I remember it distinctly because that happened right around the time that I first discovered business and got into entrepreneurship as a college student, and started my first company. That is the ideal scenario where there's just such a need for your product or service, and it's something brand new that the market is going to pull it out of you, and you're going to feel this, right? You're gonna feel that demand and that demand curve going up. So for that reason, even if the market isn't like pulling it that strong, depending on if you're in a more established market, or with more competitors, this type of a thing, still it's going to to make it successful. It's you're going to become engrossed in the work. Being a little obsessive is not necessarily a bad thing. In the age of AI, as I have predicted in uh, previous videos, previous recent videos, like I think the AI news analysis video and um, another video where I talked about the zeitgeist and the shifting social zeitgeist, the spirit of our age, if you will, in terms of AI and people's views on it being increasingly polarized. There are going to be a lot of jobs that are going to change. They will be augmented, and others are going to go away. A lot of people who work in AI, especially the so-called, I don't know, thought leadership class, if you will, like Sam Altman over at OpenAI. And this is not saying anything bad or good about Sam, but they do try to paint a rosy portrait of the future with AI while at the same time talking about the existential risk, both of which those are not in contradiction. Some people like to try to point that out as if it is a contradiction, but it isn't. And in this age where, just like more and more of the content that we're actually going to see online in terms of social media, in terms of what our friends are putting out, even just in a casual, non-professional related sense, more and more of it is going to be partially, if not fully, coming from AI. And it's going to be good. And it's going to be quite good content that will be increasingly addictive and hard to turn our attention away from, and it'll be more and more attention grabbing, appealing to our reptilian parts of our brain and whatnot. It's very important that we recognize the role that our mind and our consciousness has to play at this time in history if we are going to succeed in our pursuit. And what is your pursuit? Your pursuit, and part of the reason why you're watching, this video and perhaps other videos on our channel, is to grow, is to gain some sort of a competitive edge, to gain insights over the situation and perhaps competitors, and perhaps over yourself, because that is what self-improvement is. We are looking to see where our minds and our thinking itself might be limited, as we should, and I encourage you to think about it that way. So you need to think of your mind as the measuring stick of value, all right, in these sorts of situations where you're going to see like everyone is already constantly doing already, but it's only going to accelerate, where people are just going to be copying each other. There will be AI agents that will be copying other AI agents or other entrepreneurs or other marketers. All right. So in terms of deciding on your strategy, your tactics, your step-by-step, action plan moving your business forward and moving forward yourself with your business professionally. And I'm also kind of speaking here what I see is like going to be in the future like a growing pool of entrepreneurs because as we're going to cover here in a second, some people will be, if not a lot, it still remains to be seen. There are evolving probabilities, but certainly some jobs are going to be displaced and just may never come back, at least not in the form that they were originally. And there are reasons for this too. But this is why part of my optimistic view, if you want to look at, the future as a series of potential windows that you can look through or lenses, and one of them you can look through is this more optimistic view, which is not to say that I believe it for certain will happen. I look at things through probability, and I encourage you to as well. So I think there's an increasing probability of a good outcome where companies become smaller, teams become smaller, and people who are displaced by AI, they become entrepreneurs themselves. Because in this optimistic scenario, basically everyone in the marketplace has access to same or similar levels of intelligent AI to help us do the work for us. And we become entrepreneurs with small collaborative teams or even solo founders. That's fine too. But it's good to work with fellow humans. So whether we're in a small team or on our own, we will be managing and directing a team of AI agents to, do work for us, and maybe we sprinkle in our own special higher level of reasoning or higher dimensionality of creativity judgment into the mix, and that makes our products or services stand out that much more. So I am talking to, present day entrepreneurs like you, but I'm also talking to potential long-term people who are going to enter the market or who you're going to be talking with who are going to, lose their jobs in the future. And the way forward is entrepreneurship, I believe, and adapting, but also adopting this AI technology and realizing, hey, you know, uh, people are going to be, we're going to make it. Everyone is going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out together. And people are going to be making the same, if not more, money. And actually, there will only be more, I think, amenities in terms of comfort to our day-to-day lives. I mean, again, it's kind of a cliche. If you look back at the richest king from 100 plus years ago, in terms of raw amenities like refrigeration, basic appliances, in terms of free time, you know, the average person is doing much better and has more amenities. We might not have giant gardens, with sculptures in every case, but hopefully in terms of free time and quality of life and and access to 50,000 uh, videos or movies just for whatever 15, 20 bucks a month through Netflix. It's a pretty good situation compared to the past in many ways. The point here is that your mind is the measuring stick of value as we go through this transition. And your business either adapts to it, adopts it, some combination of both, and in dealing with, coworkers, and just an evolving economic situation and economic opportunity. All right. Your mind is the measuring stick of reality. Your mind is the measuring stick of value. And your mind is the measuring stick of what is real and what is important versus what is noise. Okay. Because the techniques and the effectiveness of other people and platforms and combined with AI is only going to grow in terms of sophistication, in terms of its ability to reach into our lives and to obtain advertising opportunities, um, that stimulate us, that get us to react, that get us to click, to buy, and whatnot. So you're going to need to decide what is worth and who is worth listening to and what or who is not. This is going to fall on deaf ears or just not be heard, I'm sure, by many. If you want to start a startup that's guaranteed to fail, start a startup that is going to that depends on and assumes that people are going to change their behavior. You know, most successful startups are more about kind of going with the flow and adapting to an existing need or demand in a given market. I think what is going to be important is the need to set mental boundaries in order to succeed. If the education system was actually useful, the public education system, not only would we have been taught, the importance of diet in school, but also in this age of what I call the electric life. I'll explain that in perhaps a future video. But the age of AI, electric is kind of a play on words, electric meaning like electrical signals in the brain, and there's a K at the end of the word, electric, like there's sort of a trick to it. So in this age of AI, this electric life that we are about to live and go through, once in our lives. AI will only come once in our lives, and it brings a lot of opportunities, but also a lot of distraction, a lot of risk, a lot of noise. So not only the importance of a physical diet, but also a mental diet. We're going to have to become disciplined as people. Like Neuralink came out the other day. News story was first patient was successfully implanted with Neuralink. All right, and it's going well. But the plan is for all of us to eventually have the option or the opportunity to have that implant in our brains as well, so that we can interact faster with AI and various devices and whatnot. But there's got to be an off switch, all right. But the off switch starts with our own choice, all right, and the concept of a mental diet. Again, that's a tactic, okay, the tactic of turning it off. All right. Mental diet can also refer to the conceptual filter that you have on value being objective and flowing. Okay. That value itself, a very overused word today. It is something that is objective, but it rises and falls based on, the given marketplace dynamics that it exists within. But what has value and what doesn't is based in part in the conviction of your mind, because what will eventually have value may not look like it immediately today as you are building your business or making change or adapting or adopting new technology. So for example, I was sitting on the couch earlier designing a key new part of Grobo's user interface, and no one's going to see it for a while. Customers won't see it for a while because we are building that new portion of the platform out. Is it valuable? Validation needs to come from within. There are so many. This whole concept of followers is a double-edged sword, right? Because followers also need to be capable of being leaders themselves, of being individuals and individualistic. Because ultimately it comes down to the conviction of your own mind and deciding, okay, this is good enough, or this is good, this is moving in the right direction, and just the decision to act in and of itself. Because it's so easy to watch endless self-improvement porn on YouTube. I've seen other YouTubers, they say corn. Maybe I'll go with that in the future. Anyway, so validation needs to come from within, and also, mental diet, conscious mental diet in terms of choosing to active listen, to tune out, but also when you're consuming information and media, to actively be listening to this information that is being pumped into your brain, and not simply accepting it and saying, oh, well, this absolutely is true. And knowing when to judge, because judge sounds for some people like a strong word, but let's be realistic. You do it, I do it, we all do it. It's called being human. usually when people say judge in a negative light, they're talking about like, a permanent judgment, like a stain on someone in your mind, and you can never get it off. This is judge in more the fair sense, like you're using your own reasoning to know if information is true or not true, whether it's to be believed or not. And that brings us to the final aspect here, like when to active listen, when to judge, and when to suspend judgment, when to say, I don't have enough information. And this is a tactic that I learned in philosophy class as a freshman in college, but which, just isn't actually taught as a tactic or as a prescription anywhere that I've heard ever. The act of actually not having an opinion, saying, you know what, I might be leaning this way, I might be inclined to lean that way, but I just don't have enough information. I haven't looked at it close enough. I'm going to suspend judgment. And now I'd like to, on that note, in terms of being in the age of AI, let's look at a quick video where you might want to judge or suspend judgment, but we're going to actively listen to what the person is saying here.
Hello, I don't know if anyone does live commentaries anymore where they talk about something that's happened in their life.
And obviously you can see the title if you didn't see it down here. I lost my job to AI this week. So the purpose in watching this is, again, like, is this video noise? How much signal? Let's find out.
And the background is, gameplay, but that's what this is today. So something a bit different. It's still Halo gameplay as you'd expect from this channel, but the topic of discussion is that I just lost my job. And I lost it to AI, which is very unfortunate. I think many people joke about...
Okay, so his assertion, his claim is that he lost his job to AI. That's what he's claiming.
The fact that, AI is going to take all our jobs and we're all going to get replaced, and especially within my industry, which is graphic design. My job, I've been a graphic designer for the past 8 years of my life. And I've worked at this specific company for 6 years. You would think that being one of the longest running employees, being there 6 years, having a wage increase almost every year and being very much valued because I was the only graphic designer left, you'd think they want to keep me on as much as possible. I mean, I barely was allowed to take holiday because I was the only designer. So if I was off, then nobody could cover for me, and the company ended up with work stacking up. However, over the past 3 months, I'd say, I've noticed that my schedule at the company became like less and less cluttered, and it got to the point where I was getting paid for a 7-hour and 30-minute day, and some days only doing 2 hours of work, which obviously...
Okay, so he's saying that for several months leading up to his termination, that basically he was getting less work assigned to him, right? That's an important point to keep in mind.
It was great for me. I loved it. Got up at 9 o'clock because it was work from home as well. I'd do 2 hours of work and I'd have nothing left to do for the rest of the day. Maybe some revisions / amends would come in at like 3 or 4 o'clock. I'd do those for 20-30 minutes and that'd be my day. I'd essentially do between 2 and 3 hours of work and get paid for 7.5. It was great for like 3 or 4 months.
And by the way, he says 3 or 4 months here, but then in a follow-up video, he actually clarifies that it was up to a year, that it was like he would do 2 to 3 hours of work and then he'd be free for the rest of the day. It sounds like he might have been working remotely as well, if I had to read between the lines here.
And then, yeah, on Monday this week, I got told that I'm being made redundant, and I was thinking, how could this be possible? You clearly need a graphic designer. The company I work at is a marketing agency who does email and web designs for clients. And yeah, I was a bit confused on that one. And then I did a bit of digging, asked a few people, and it turns out basically all of the material that I've provided over the past 6 years is now being fed to AI and templated.
So what is a bit surprising to me is that he didn't already know the answer. He said first he was fired and then he had to do digging, right? So so that tells me, again, like it sounds like he was working remotely, not in an office setting. It also sounds like he was very disengaged from coworkers, and maybe part of that was just, the job set up the way that tasks were assigned to him. I don't know. But if you're getting less work for, again, as he said, up to a year in his follow-up video to this, where he made that more clear, it makes me question, did he really lose his job completely to AI? Because if you ask the employer, like, would the employer agree, like, yeah, oh, we have this AI option now, and because my knowledge of AI is that it's good and it's getting better, but to do, work where clients require some sort of customization. And as he goes on to say, like, oh, like they took my templates, basically they just feed in, the requirements from in terms of like the hex code for the colors, for the background colors. So they take my template and they just update it with the font and the colors, and boom. And it makes me wonder, okay, if you had your own templates and you were doing 2 to 3 hours of work, and the writing seemed to be on the wall, where you had 2 to 3 hours a day, let's say, 60+% of your time was free and you were being paid for a full day, how sustainable did you think that situation was? Would you feel a little bit uneasy? Was this his first job perhaps? And I'm not trying to, like, again, let me put in the disclaimer, I don't have all the facts of the situation. I don't know this person. This person could be, absolutely have the truth in their hands. But what I suspect to be more likely the truth, based on my experience and probabilities, is that it sounds like this person was shocked out of nowhere, and they shouldn't have been, because for up to a year, they were only working part-time, being paid full-time. It sounds like potentially so incredibly disengaged from the day-to-day work that they could not see, as I think in his point of view, he would describe it as the harpoon of AI was coming straight for his job. And further, it sounds like they found some third-party tool, or they built their own tool. He said that he checked on competitors, and competitors to the company are also doing the same thing. So it really sounds like this guy kind of had his head in the sand for a while. And quite honestly, if he wasn't being assigned a lot of work, and that the work only took him so little amount of time, and that his work is so easily automated by AI, I mean, was he really contributing that much value to the business from a business perspective? This is not a personal judgment against anyone. And I think most of the people watching this know exactly, where I'm coming from on this. This is a very diplomatic way of putting it. If you read the comments in this video, which has over 500,000 views, it's growing quickly in terms of views. I don't think this is the full truth that we are hearing from this individual. He goes on in the video to also say that, he's really worried. He has bills. He doesn't have a lot of money in the bank. He's upset because he went to school for graphic design, and this is what he really wanted to do. And a lot of the comments are very much in agreement with him, although his attitude, again, sounds like an emotional reaction, clearly upset. Losing your job is not fun, absolutely understandable. But there also seems to be emotion there, a little bit of a tone of entitlement. For a lot of people who are seeing the video, they're not going to, I think, interrogate, some of the ideas and the claims that are being presented by the person who recorded it. I believe that the truth is something closer to what I'm sort of reading between the lines here of. And I think that, there's still a great need for graphic designers, because in my business, AI can generate images, even Adobe, right? You have the Adobe tool and it has AI baked into it, but you need a person to operate it. And if all he was bringing to the table as far as like the business in terms of value was, oh, I got these templates and I customize them, and and you're not doing a whole lot of design, maybe just a little tweaks here and there, put in an image here and there, that's pretty easy to automate. And there are a lot of jobs like this in larger corporations and medium-sized corporations and small businesses, but especially as you go up the food chain, that are just going to be automated away, in part because, in today's economy, or up until the age of AI, it's easy to kind of hide within a corporation because corporations have a lot of inefficiency in them, especially even if they're really successful. It's easy to just kind of get by based on, being liked. For example, people just don't understand your work. And it's like, oh wow, Tim, he's magic. He's a techno whiz. And meanwhile, Tim, he might just know basic HTML and CSS, but to everyone else in the organization, he's like a tech god because he knows about whatever third-party tools and a little bit about code. I'm also reminded of a friend of mine who I will refer to as Adam. Adam graduated from the same college as me, and he went to work for General Electric. He went through their leadership program that they had there, and then he left that job, started a startup. He started basically kind of like a competitor, like a local competitor to Groupon in LA at the time that Groupon was all the rage and really taking off in a big way. And he did quite well. He ended up selling that business, and then he went to work at Google. And he was texting me when he was working at Google, and he was working in sales, right? So a pretty important position, and he was getting an excellent salary. But he was like, dude, like you have no idea how easy it is. I'm done with my work for the day after like an hour or two of just sitting down. Like it's like too comfortable here. It's like the easiest thing ever. It's insane. And I heard a similar story from another friend who I went to college with, who went and got a corporate job before starting a startup at Lockheed Martin, so a defense contractor, pretty big, well-known company. And you would think, oh, like, okay, engineering job, they're gonna need to keep their engineers really busy. He's like, man, it was fascinating how similar the comments of his were with Adams. We'll call him Tim, in terms of just saying like, yeah, like I'll be here and the rest of the day I'm just coding my own, project for like a startup. And there's just not a whole lot of accountability for a lot of no so-called normal jobs. It is just that way. And I think that that's just the case in a lot of jobs. So I am skeptical. I feel bad for this individual because it is a negative experience. He sounds like it was his first job. I think he says in one of the videos, maybe this video, that he's 27. He's been there for 6 years. So that tells me this is the first job that he had out of college. So obviously it is upsetting. And I wish him the best. But be skeptical of information like this because it really plays into this polarization that is going on in the age of AI, and it's not necessarily true. I'm maybe like 30 to 40% suspending judgment and like 60 to 70% saying like, okay, like some of what you're saying is true, and there are definitely economic tectonic shifts slowly, gradually happening under our feet. In this case, it sounded like he coulda, shoulda, woulda been aware of it, but he just was perhaps not engaged within the company, maybe in part because he was working remotely. But if you're working for a year and you got 2 hours out of 8 hours filled with work and the rest of the time you're able to chill, maybe don't feel like your job is necessarily so secure, because the best way for job security or startup security, as founders who are watching this know, is you have to be contributing significantly more value than you're being paid for, not the other way around. So with that being said, I want to thank you for watching this until the end. If you found value in this video, please leave a comment below. Is there anything that you like really connected with, that you agree with, that you disagree with? Let me know down below. I'd love to hear from you. Love getting feedback, always looking to improve. And if you decide to like the video and subscribe, awesome. And perhaps the biggest compliment that you can give, other than liking and subscribing, is to share this video with other people who you think might get value from it. Because it is the growth, seeing the growth, that is really encouraging to me and my team, and encourages me and my team to continue to make content like this. If you'd like to also learn more about what we're working on and what we are launching in real time right now, Grobo.com is the place to go. Go to Grobo.com, especially if you own a business or a marketer or a startup founder. Check it out at Grobo.com. It is an AI growth automation platform, and you can For example, automate blog creation. And it's also easy to put, to create your workflows that the AI agents kind of work within, and also incorporate your existing team members into it for quality checking, refining, editing, whatever. It's called human in the loop. I think I made a video about that in the recent past as well. So it's easy to have human in the loop in these workflows that you can customize to your business, to your brand, or to your clients' businesses and brands. So it's grobo.com if you want to check it out to learn more. And until next time, keep growing and stay focused. I will see you in the next video.